Late tonight, there's something you need to understand clearly, not as a rumor or imagination, but as a moment that reveals more than it hides. The person who has been occupying your thoughts, the one whose behavior has kept you caught between hope and confusion, recently found themselves in a private conversation with someone new. It wasn't a loud exchange or something meant to be noticed, but in that quiet setting, your name surfaced unexpectedly. The shift was immediate. Their tone changed, softer yet heavier, as if saying too much had suddenly become unavoidable. What followed wasn't dismissive or cold, but something far more complicated, a rare honesty slipping through when defenses were lowered. Instead of pushing your memory aside, they acknowledged it in a way that suggested it still lingers strongly within them. Your presence, the way you care, the consistency you once offered, all of it came up naturally, as though it still sits in the background of their thoughts. The person listening could sense the discomfort in that admission, not because it was negative, but because it was true in a way they hadn't expected. There was an unspoken realization that comparisons happen silently, almost instinctively, no matter who enters their life afterward. Even when they try to move forward, something about your impact doesn't fully fade, and that creates hesitation in moments where emotional closeness begins to form again. It wasn't a declaration meant for you, nor a dramatic confession, but a quiet reflection that slipped out in an unguarded moment. And sometimes, those are the moments that reveal the most, not because they change everything, but because they confirm what words alone often fail to admit. And with every sentence they spoke, it became painfully clear. They haven't moved on the way they pretend to. They haven't forgotten you the way people expected them to. Their voice trembled with a truth they've been running from, a truth that's chasing them more aggressively tonight than ever before. But here's where the story twists into something even heavier. After confessing everything they felt about you, their expression suddenly shifted. That woman noticed it instantly, like a shadow crossing their eyes. They said something so raw, so vulnerable, that even she had to take a step back. They admitted they fear losing you forever more than they admit to anyone, even themselves. They confess that every time they check your name online, every time they see you quiet, every time they sense distance, something inside them breaks in a way they can't repair. And the most shocking part? They told her they are terrified you might have already found someone better, someone who sees you the way they should have, someone who didn't take your presence for granted. Their heart, the same heart they tried to shield, slipped open for a moment, revealing a longing so deep the woman they confided in had no words to respond. She saw the truth. You are not just someone in their life. You are the person whose absence hurts them louder than your presence ever did. And tonight, while they tried to hide everything behind a casual conversation, destiny forced the truth out of their mouth in front of the one woman who didn't expect to hear it. And now, that truth is coming straight to you. Before you hear this, breathe in, because what unfolded next was even more shocking than what they had already confessed. After speaking your name with that quiet crack in their voice, the woman they were talking to didn't stay silent. She pressed deeper. She asked them a question no one had dared to ask before. If this person means so much to you, then why are you still running? And in that single moment, everything inside them paused. Their shoulders tensed, their eyes dropped, and the truth they'd been swallowing for months finally crawled to the surface. They admitted they'd been fighting a silent war, between their fear of reopening old wounds and their fear of losing you forever. They said they never meant to let things fall apart, never meant to leave you confused, never meant to act distant, but life pulled them in directions they didn't know how to control. And even while all that was happening, their heart kept circling back to you, as if it didn't know any other route. Then came the part that made the woman blink in disbelief. They revealed they've been watching you from a distance, noticing the smallest shifts in your moods, the quiet posts, the hidden sadness behind your strength. They said you don't show it easily, but they can feel when something is off. That's when they told her something that completely changed the tone of the conversation. I messed up, and I don't know if they'll ever let me back in. Their regret poured out like a confession they'd been holding until it burned inside them. They admitted that every night they replaced certain memories without meaning to, moments where they should have held on tighter, spoken more clearly, chosen you fearlessly. They confessed they still feel your absence like an empty seat beside them, one they can't fill no matter who else tries to get close. And the woman, stunned, asked them softly, "Do you still care about them?" Their answer didn't even take a second, more than they'll ever know. But the real shock came in the final part of that conversation. Just when the woman thought they had revealed everything, your special person leaned back, exhaled deeply, and whispered something like a secret they had been afraid to admit even to themselves. They said they fear you won't believe them anymore. Fear you've lost trust. Fear you think they never valued you. They confessed that every time they try to reach out, their hands stop halfway. Not because they don't want you, but because they're terrified their message might be too late. The woman could clearly see the fear of timing written all over their eyes. And then they said something so intense, so raw, that even she felt the weight of it. If they gave me one sign, just one, I would rewrite everything. She didn't interrupt. She couldn't. Because in that moment, she saw something that even they didn't realize. They aren't just thinking about you. They're holding on to you. Quietly, desperately, hoping the universe gives them one more chance. If you wish to express your support further, you have the option to give super thanks, with contributions of up to $20. Listen closely, because what happened next took the entire conversation into a direction neither of them expected. After your special person confessed everything, the fear, the regret, the longing, the woman leaned forward and asked the one question that cut straight through their defenses. What would you do if they stood in front of you right now? And instantly, their entire expression shifted. Their eyes softened, their breath halted for a second, and it was like their heart answered before their mouth could. They said they wouldn't run, wouldn't hide, wouldn't pretend anymore. In a moment of unexpected honesty, they finally allowed the words they had been holding back for so long to surface, the thoughts rehearsed in silence, the apologies formed in late-night reflection, and the emotions never fully voiced. They promised that if they ever spoke to you directly, it would be without disguise or hesitation, and that you were never the fault in their story, only their own doubts and insecurities clouding the way. The woman listening noticed a shift in them as they spoke, as though opening that door released something long locked away. They began recalling small details about you, the way you pause before answering, the subtle expressions that shift across your face, and the quiet influence you carry without effort. To them, you were not just a passing thought but something steadier, something grounding. They admitted that even in ordinary moments, at work, with friends, in distraction, your presence still interrupts their thoughts without warning. They couldn't explain why they shared so much that night, only that something inside had finally given way, leaving them unable to keep pretending indifference. Their voice trembled, not from fragility, but from the intensity of emotions stored for too long without release. What unsettled the woman most was their confession of fear, not of losing you, but of being misunderstood by you, of being seen as someone who spoke against you, or failed to value what you meant to them. They explained they didn't speak about you tonight to gossip or complain. They spoke because they couldn't hide their feelings anymore. They said your name slipped out of them naturally, like it always sits on the tip of their tongue. And then, with a tone so vulnerable it made the woman freeze, they whispered something that changed everything. They don't know the truth about how much I still feel for them. The woman realized the truth instantly. Your special person isn't confused about you. They're overwhelmed by how deeply they still care, how intensely they still hold on, and how silently they're hoping the universe is guiding you both back toward each other. And now hear this. because the moment that conversation seemed like it was fading out, something happened that neither of them expected. The woman, who had been quietly listening, suddenly asked a question that froze your special person in place. If you care about them this much, then why are you letting them slip away? That one sentence hit them like a truth they'd been running from. Their breathing changed. Their eyes wavered. And slowly, they admitted something they had never spoken out loud. They said, they've been trying to protect themselves, because caring for you isn't light, casual, or temporary for them. It's intense. It's consuming. It's the kind of feeling that scares them because they don't know how to handle something real without messing it up. They said every time they decide to step toward you, their doubts show up like shadows, whispering that you deserve someone better, someone stronger, someone who doesn't hesitate. And that fear has held them back more than anything else. But then their tone shifted, soft, heavy, and honest, in a way that made the woman look at them differently. They confessed they've never spoken about you to anyone the way they did tonight. They said you're the only person whose name brings a mix of comfort and ache at the same time. They told her you're the person they remember in quiet moments. The person they think about when life gets too loud. The person they wish they had fought harder for. And they admitted something that left the woman stunned. They said they've been watching your strength, your growth, your silence, and it intimidates them. Because you're rising in ways they didn't expect, and they're scared you don't need them anymore. They said they notice things you think no one sees. Your resilience, your glow, the way you carry yourself even when you're hurting, and that makes them feel both proud of you and terrified of losing you completely. But the final thing they revealed tonight was something deeper than longing. They said the universe pushed your name out of their mouth for a reason. That they didn't plan to talk about you, didn't expect to feel that emotional, didn't imagine their guard would break, but it did. And once it cracked, everything they've been holding inside, every fear, every regret, every hidden emotion, poured out in front of someone who wasn't even supposed to know. The woman realized something powerful. Your special person isn't confused, isn't indifferent, isn't detached. They're overwhelmed by how strongly they still feel you in their life. Overwhelmed by the thought of you slipping away. Overwhelmed by the truth they've tried to bury for too long. And tonight, without meaning to, they expose the deepest part of their heart. The part that still belongs to you. If you wish to express your support further, you have the option to give super thanks, with contributions of up to $20. But pay attention now, because this is where the story takes a turn so unexpected that even the woman listening didn't see it coming. After spilling everything, the regret, the fear, the hidden longing, your special person suddenly went silent. Their eyes weren't on the woman anymore. They were somewhere else, somewhere far away, somewhere only you exist. The woman watched their expression change into something she hadn't seen all evening. A look of realization, a truth finally settling in. And then, they whispered something so soft she barely heard it, I think. I'm the one who hurt them the most, not because I did something wrong, but because I didn't do anything at all. Those words hung in the air like a confession they never meant anyone to hear. They admitted they stayed quiet when they should have spoken, stayed distant when they should have reached out, stayed guarded when they should have let themselves feel everything openly. That's when the woman leaned back, studying them carefully. She asked, "Do you even know what they think of you now?" Your special person swallowed hard. They said they've replayed that question 1,000 times alone. They wonder if you think they don't care. Somewhere between doubt and confession, they finally let the truth surface. They often wondered if you believed you had been replaced, if they had moved on and found comfort elsewhere. With a shaky breath, they admitted they never truly replaced you in any meaningful way. Nothing emotional, nothing mental, nothing in their life ever filled the space you once occupied. Every new connection felt shallow. Every conversation lost depth, and every attempt to move forward only reminded them of what slipped away. The person speaking noticed the weight in their expression. A quiet guilt formed from realizing too late how rare what they had was. They clarified that mentioning your name wasn't casual gossip. It spilled out because they could no longer contain it. For a long time, everything about you had been held inside them, heavy and unresolved, waiting for the right moment to surface. But what followed carried a deeper weight. They admitted something unexpected. Lately, they have felt an unusual pull, as if your presence still lingers in ways they can't explain. They described sensing changes in you, as though you have grown distant yet somehow more powerful, more certain, more out of reach. And then came the admission that stayed in the room. They believe you are reaching a point of no return in your life. That realization unsettles them more than they are willing to admit, because it feels like you may no longer look back, and that thought alone leaves them restless, caught between regret, reflection, and the fear of losing you completely for good this time. Because losing you once hurt, but losing the chance to ever come back, that's the fear that's been haunting them, quietly, relentlessly, every single day. And tonight, for the first time, they admitted out loud that the thought of you slipping into someone else's world, someone who sees your worth immediately, keeps them up at night. And then came the final, most powerful truth they revealed. They said they didn't talk to that woman for attention, advice, or sympathy. They talked because destiny cornered them, because their heart couldn't keep pretending, because your name refuses to leave the place it holds in their soul. In a voice barely holding itself together, they confessed, "I never stopped caring. I just never knew how to show it without breaking everything." The woman sat back silently, realizing something profound. The story isn't over between you two, not in their heart, not in their mind, and not in the way the universe keeps pulling your name out of them, even when they try their hardest to stay silent. Now listen carefully, because what happened next turned the entire atmosphere heavier, deeper, and more revealing than anything they'd said before. After admitting everything, the longing, the fear, the regrets, they suddenly looked at the woman with eyes that carried a kind of honesty people hide their whole lives. And then they said something that made her freeze completely. "I didn't just talk about them tonight. I've been thinking about them every single day, even when I pretend I'm fine." The woman blinked, caught off guard, because the weight behind those words wasn't casual. It was the kind of truth that slips out only when the heart is too tired to hide anymore. They confessed that even on days when they smile, laugh, or act busy, there's always a quiet moment where your face, your energy, your absence, hits them like a wave they can't outrun. They said they've been carrying this silent storm inside them, hoping it would calm down with time, but instead, it just keeps getting stronger. The woman leaned forward gently, almost whispering, "Then, what are you so afraid of?" And that was the breaking point. They admitted they're afraid of returning to you as someone you no longer recognize. They fear you've changed, that you've grown beyond them, that you've become stronger in ways they weren't prepared for. They said the version of you they remember is powerful, but the version of you now feels untouchable. And that scares them, not because they don't want you anymore, but because they feel like they no longer deserve a place in your world. They said your silence doesn't just feel distant, it feels final. And that thought alone has kept them locked in this emotional cage, where they want to reach out but can't, want to speak but freeze, want to step toward you but fear the door might already be closed. The woman watched their voice crack slightly, not from weakness, but from the weight of everything they've kept buried inside their chest for so long. But here's the part that truly changed everything. As they kept talking, something shifted inside them, like clarity finally hitting at the right moment. They said they realized something tonight, something they never admitted even to themselves. Every time they tried to move on, life kept throwing reminders of you in their path. A song, a memory, a place, a random thought. They said it was almost like the universe refused to let them forget. At some point, they admitted that no matter how often they tried to convince themselves otherwise, something inside always returned to the same reality. There is still unfinished space between you two, that time has not been able to close. It wasn't carelessness that made your name appear in conversation tonight. It was exhaustion from holding back feelings that never truly faded, no matter how much they tried to suppress them. They confessed, almost quietly, that speaking about you was never about letting go, but about fearing that silence might erase the chance to ever be honest again about what still lives inside them. The listener fell silent, slowly realizing this wasn't just emotional release, but a turning point where something long locked away inside them began to surface. And in that moment, it became clear they weren't only missing you, they were also confronting a deeper fear of a future where your absence becomes permanent and unavoidable. What followed carried a weight beyond simple emotion, revealing a truth they had avoided for far too long. Tonight marked a subtle shift, as if something inside them finally broke its silence and allowed honesty to take shape without fear, hesitation, or the need to hide behind distance. Every word they shared pointed toward a realization that what remains between you is not easily dismissed, nor casually forgotten, because it still holds meaning that lingers far deeper than pride or time can dissolve. And they were no longer sure how to walk away from that truth without looking back again tonight now. After revealing their fear of losing you forever, the woman looked at them with a seriousness she hadn't shown earlier. She asked, "If this is how deeply you feel, then what exactly is stopping you now?" That question hit them with a force they couldn't hide from. Their breath caught. Their eyes drifted toward the floor, as if they were searching for the right words in the cracks beneath their feet. And then, in a voice weighed down by honesty, they admitted something that changed the tone of the entire conversation. "Because I don't know if they still have space for me in their heart." The room felt heavier instantly. They said they're scared you've learned to live without them, that you found strength in your silence, that you've healed in ways that no longer include them, and that terrifies them more than rejection itself. The woman didn't interrupt. She could feel the emotional shift pulsing through their words. Your special person continued, saying they replay your last moments together in their mind constantly. They wonder if you still feel anything when their name crosses your thoughts, or if it's nothing but a faded echo now. They admitted they sometimes type a message to you late at night, stare at it for minutes, even hours, and then delete it out of fear it might reopen wounds you've already closed. They confessed they've wanted to reach out so many times, but something stops them every time. The thought that you might see their message and feel nothing. They said that idea alone breaks them in a way they can't explain. Because losing someone you love is one thing, but realizing you've become a stranger in their world, that's a different kind of pain entirely. But then came the part that shook even the woman listening. Your special person revealed a truth they had been hiding even from themselves. They said they're not just afraid of losing you, they're afraid of facing you. Afraid you'll look at them with disappointment, with frustration, with the kind of hurt eyes that silently ask, "Where were you when I needed you?" They said they know you deserve more consistency, more clarity, more effort. They know you waited longer than most people ever would. They know you tried, even when it was hard. And the guilt of not matching your efforts sits on their shoulders like a weight they haven't been able to drop. They spoke with a calm honesty that didn't come easily, as if years of silence had finally loosened their grip, admitting they had never encountered anyone who left such a lasting imprint on their heart. Not because of grand gestures, but because of how naturally you made everything feel. Like being around you brought a sense of ease they didn't know they were missing. Something steady and unexplainably real that stayed with them long after you were gone. Even now, after all this time and distance, they confessed that nothing in their life has quite replaced that space you once filled so effortlessly. No distraction or new experience ever managed to erase the quiet echo you left behind. As the conversation deepened, their composure began to crack just slightly, revealing something more vulnerable beneath. And in that moment, they finally said what had been held back for so long. that the reason your name still comes up in their thoughts isn't about being stuck in the past, but about something they never fully resolved within themselves. It wasn't confusion or regret clouding their judgment, but a simple and undeniable truth they could no longer avoid, that what existed between you never truly reached an ending, only a pause that life stretched further than intended. And as those words settled into the silence, it became clear that even in trying to move forward, a part of them had always remained quietly connected to what once was, carrying it not as a burden, but as an unspoken reminder that some connections don't disappear, they simply wait in the background of memory, unchanged and still deeply felt.